Hi guys, how we doing? Peter here once again, and it's another Saturday morning, which means another bunch of stories. Okay, I've got 3 stories for you this morning, but actually it's 5 because one of the story contains 3 different experiences from different Thai girls. You'll understand once we get into the stories. Somebody gave me a really good idea actually. You know, at the beginning of these uploads, I always say I talk about everything Thailand. Well, as you know, I will accept stories from anywhere in Asia actually, especially that I'm running a little bit low right now. And somebody said, maybe you should start off by saying I talk about all things Asia, but then I suppose that could be a double-bladed sword because then I'll get the trolls say, well, all you talk about is Thailand at the end of the day. So I think I'll stick with Thailand for now. Okay, right, let's get straight into these stories. They're quite good this week and I think you're going to enjoy these.
สวัสดีค่ะ
The story concerns my experiences at 3 of Pattaya's private hospitals during the 15 years I have spent European winters in my condo in Pattaya. The main hospital in Pattaya is Pattaya City Hospital. I think that's mainly for Thais, though maybe it does treat foreigners, I don't know. The hospitals I've experienced are the 2 small hospitals near Beach Road, one on Soi 5 and one on Soi 7, and the large Bangkok Pattaya Hospital to the north of Pattaya. I attended one of the smaller hospitals for an anti-rabies treatment following a dog bite from one of Pattaya's many, not always friendly, soy dogs. I went to the other one when I had severe food poisoning and had to spend a night on a drip in a hospital ward. And on my last trip, I went to the Bangkok Pattaya Hospital for investigation of a possible brain tumour. I'm not medically trained, so can only make some general comments about the treatment I received. However, I was married to a cancer surgeon for over 20 years, and during that time, I did pick up a few bits of medical knowledge most people wouldn't necessarily know about. My general impression of the 2 smaller hospitals were that they were friendly and professional, but they were more like large outpatient clinics rather than full-service hospitals. They did have a few pieces of kit like x-ray machines and labs for analysing blood tests, but you probably wouldn't want to use them for anything serious. And in fact, it was a doctor at one of the smaller hospitals who advised me to go to the Bangkok Pattaya Hospital for investigation of why I was suddenly getting severe headaches. When I first arrived at the Bangkok Pattaya Hospital, there seemed to be a disorganised crowd hanging around the information desk. But after about 10 minutes, I spoke to one of the staff and within less than an hour was being seen by a neurologist. He planned a series of tests including an MRI scan and MRA scan. Both these are done on an MRI scanner, which is a serious bit of equipment costing over £1 million, 1.2 million US dollars or 1.2 million euro. The tests and scans were booked for the next day, a Saturday, and would have been given the results that day, except the Saturday was a neurologist's day off. So I went back on the Sunday to get the results. Thankfully, they showed that what's left of my brain, in spite of my valiant efforts over many years to support the Chang Brewing Company and Pattaya nightlife, is totally normal. The day of the tests and scans were superbly well organised with very attractive nurses or nursing assistants waiting for me at the end of each stage to take me on to the next stage. The Bangkok Pattaya Hospital was not like being in the Thailand we all know and love, which works to Thai time, where people sleep most of the time at work, and where if someone can do something the wrong way, they'll do it wrong at least 5 times before getting it right. The hospital was really well run and I would highly recommend it. I don't know how healthcare works in European countries or the USA or Australia, but I know that if I had tried to be treated in England, I would have had to wait a couple of weeks before seeing a doctor. The doctor would then write a referral to a specialist at my local hospital, which might take a couple of months longer before I could see the specialist. Then there would be another couple of weeks before I could get the x-rays, blood tests and scans. Finally, there could be a further couple of weeks before I could get an appointment with a specialist to review the results. So the process, which took the Bangkok Pattaya Hospital just 2 days, could take several months in England. If you're being investigated for a possible serious condition like a brain tumour, you really don't want months of anxiety while waiting for appointments, tests and results. Of course, all of this would be free in the UK, But for the x-rays, blood tests, MRI and MRA scans and 2 appointments with a neurologist at the Bangkok Pattaya hospital, I paid around £900 or $1,000 or €1,000. This was reimbursed by my travel insurance company on my return to the UK. Just to give you a further idea of prices, an appointment with a general doctor at the 2 smaller hospitals cost me just 800 baht, about £20 or $20, 20 euro. Each appointment with the neurologist cost 1,600 baht, about £40, $45 and 45 euro. One of the Thai government business strategies is to make Thailand the go-to destination for people from around the world for medical procedures. From what I experienced at the Bangkok Pattaya hospital, I know that if I was put on a waiting list in the UK for months for a knee or hip or even cancer operation, I'd be straight on a plane to Thailand and check into one of the main hospitals in Bangkok or Pattaya which cater for foreigners, as their equipment and standard of care are, from what I experienced, excellent. The only minor complaint I would make was that when it came to paying for the treatment and visiting the hospital pharmacies for medication, we were back onto Thai time and Thai organisation. Yeah, I know exactly where this guy's coming from because I've had quite a number of visits to hospital recently. I had a problem with my foot. I was walking one afternoon with Bangkok Pat actually, and I walked too far and it swelled up, and I thought, well, a few days it'll be better. It took a couple of months for it finally to kind of be no pain whatsoever, but I've had an ongoing problem with the inside of my knee joint, not the actual joint, but the kind of cartilage muscle on the side. When I walk a little bit, it gets quite painful. I'm on painkillers, and I've actually had to go to a hospital several times for many different tests, because sometimes things like this can be a trigger point. It can tell you that there's other things wrong with you in your body, your other organs. So I had all them tested. Everything was fine, but I'm still, going to the hospitals. And the guy's right. They're fantastic. You go in. There's no really waiting around. They really take care of you. You get taken by a nurse or a nursing assistant from one stage to the other stage. But like he quite rightly says, at the end, when it comes to picking up your medicine and paying the bill, it can be a little bit laborious because you're done. You just want to get going, and it can take quite a long time. But they're fantastic. The hospitals in Thailand are fantastic. And just another point here, I haven't taken out any insurance in Thailand. I don't like insurance. I don't like all the ways they use excuses not to pay you. So I'm actually self-insured. I put a video up on the channel. It's called something like "Why I Decided Not to Take Healthcare." I've stuck $1 million baht in the bank, and that's for emergencies. I've got somebody I can trust very, very well. And if anything happened to me, then there's funds there. I just don't like medical insurance for a lot of reasons that are in that video. Right. Okay, waffling on as usual. We're going to jump into story number 2. Now, this is actually 3 stories, and this is written by an Australian guy who wants to give a different point of view on the bar girls and the Thai ladies. Okay, so let me just get straight into this one. I would like to tell you the other side of the story for your viewers so they have a more balanced view, namely the stories of Thai wives who have married foreigners and been ripped off and or treated very badly. I know a lot of Thai wives, as I am married to a wonderful Thai lady and she has many Thai friends. We have been married for 16 years, and I can assure your viewers, if they get the right Thai lady, they make wonderful wives. About 90% of the Thai Australian marriages we know of have been successful, happy marriages, and both parties very happy with their situation. However, a number of Thai wives have come to us for help and seek advice when they have been mistreated by their Australian husbands. Nui is a very beautiful lady from northern Thailand, and she is so stunning that male heads turn everywhere she goes, and guys just melt when she speaks to them. Nui went on Thai Cupid and quickly was matched with an Australian, and a whirlwind romance ensued. Nui came to Australia when she was 30. She had a child from a former Thai partner who did not support his child. Nui's background is uncertain, as I have heard 2 different stories. One is that she worked as a hostess in a bar where she was very popular and enjoyed the work, and 2, that she was a normal country Thai girl who met her Australian husband online. They fell in love and then married. Nui's Australian husband, who we will call Stan, told Nui he was a senior executive with a very responsible and well-paid professional job, and he could look after her and her child very well and was independently wealthy. Stan was friends with a number of wealthy expats in Pattaya and stayed in their luxury houses. He would discuss business ideas and buying lavish properties with them, so Nui thought she would have a financially comfortable life in Australia and was excited to move to start the next chapter of her life. On arriving in Australia, Nui found out that Stan had quit his previous job, which was nowhere near as well paid as senior as he had made out. He was in fact a low-paid casual worker, and it would be necessary for Nui to work hard to support herself, her child, and to a certain extent, Stan. Nui found work in a number of Asian restaurants where she worked hard but only a small wage, so she was only marginally better off than when she was in Thailand. Stan did not have a house, and the family had to rent a modest home, and money was very tight. Stan was a heavy drinker and would often get drunk, which led to arguments, and on occasions he would hit Nui. This went on for a number of years. Stan would regularly take money from Nui's purse to buy alcohol, leaving her with little money for herself and child. Stan was very jealous and did not trust her with anyone and constantly checked up on her, even when she was visiting other Thai wife friends. Stan usually checked up on her by phone, but sometimes would follow her and mysteriously just appear at the door and walk in. My wife and I knew they had some issues, but they seemed to be able to resolve them themselves, and for the most part, an outsider would think they were a normal married couple. One night, Nui rang my wife and told her that Stan had hit her, and she was in fear for her safety and that of her child. Nui said that she couldn't stay with Stan any longer, and when she told him, he threw her and her child out of their house. Stan also insisted that she hand over the keys to the motorbike he had given her. We told Nui to contact the police, which she did, and while she was at the police station, Stan turned and abused her and said he was going to hit her when she came home. The police told Stan that they were charging him with domestic violence and ordered that he stay away from her. Stan was so vindictive that he tried to have her charged with assault. The police reluctantly served Nui a summons to appear in court. Thankfully, the judge saw through Stan's untrue claim and threw it out of court. That night, Stan threw out a lot of Nui's belongings and sold her valuables and kept the money. Nui had no idea of her financial situation, as she had just signed anything Stan put in front of her without telling her what it was. We helped Nui make an application for her credit history to find out if she owed any money to the banks or finance companies. The report came back and we found out that there were a number of assets under finance, including the motorbike Stan had given her, and the loan was totally in her name. Stan refused to give Nui back her motorbike, and she had to keep paying for the bike even though she couldn't ride it. When Nui rang the finance company, they said even though her payments were up to date, she was in default of her finance contract as she no longer had control of the asset, so the finance company repossessed it. There are many more instances of Stan's vindictiveness, nasty treatment of Nui, such as shredding her Thai passport and Thai ID card, papers and other valuable documents, which caused her significant distress and inconvenience, but to detail them all would fill up too many hours of YouTube content. Nui has since married another Australian, and this time he is truly wealthy and treats her well. Fortunately for Nui, in fact, any visa applicant, Australia's immigration department does not cancel the visa of applicants who can prove they have been subject to domestic violence, and she was granted permanent residency. The Australian Immigration Department bans anyone who is subject to a domestic violence order from visa sponsorship for a period of at least 2 years. The Immigration Department only permits 2 marriage visas in a lifetime per sponsor, so choose wisely. The guy just sounded like a dick, didn't he? All right, let's go into the second of this guy's stories. This is called Fon's story. Fon was a good Thai girl from northern Thailand. A Thai friend of hers who was married to an Australian contacted her and asked her if she wanted to be introduced to an Australian boyfriend. Fon agreed, and after many months of phone calls between Thailand and Australia, Fon finally met David in Thailand and clicked, so they became boyfriend-girlfriend. David arranged a visa for Fon and brought her to Australia. David worked at a remote mining camp in Western Australia and was on a rotating roster. It was a very lonely experience, as he did 12 hours days by himself operating mining machinery with only a radio for company. When his workday was done, he would retire to a small cabin exhausted, grab a quick dinner, then he would simply sleep and not socialise with other miners. David would repeat the same scenario day after day. He had done this for more than 30 years. David had a lot of money and assets from his long working hours, but he had very few friends and his social skills were very limited due to his social isolation. David used to smoke and drink a lot in an attempt to make up for his loneliness. Unfortunately, David was a nasty drunk and became abusive and violent when intoxicated. Worse still, he often took this out on Fawn and hit her on many occasions. Fawn kept it secret from us and her Thai friends for many years. We would often wonder why we would regularly see her on a weekly basis, and then she would disappear without a word for 6 months at a time and then resume visiting us. We thought this was a bit strange and she never gave a reason to explain her absence. Fawn was married to David for nearly 20 years. In that time, he never made her a beneficiary of his will. His house and all his assets were solely in his name. One night, Fawn contacted us and told us that David had assaulted her after a party and broken a bone in her back, and she had been hospitalized. David was interviewed by the police in relation to the assault following a neighbour's call. Fawn did not press charges, so David escaped punishment. David threw out all of her belongings onto the street and locked her out of the house. He even kept her treasured pets and refused to return them to her. She was embarrassed and felt she lost face telling us what really happened with their relationship, but feared that now, as the police were involved, the story would get out. She went on to explain that this had happened on many occasions and was why she had disappeared for many months at a time. She said that sometimes she had to stay away from everybody as she had bruises or injuries which she wanted to keep hidden. After nearly 20 years of this, Fawn had had enough and finally decided to get divorced. David did everything he could to delay proceedings and make things difficult for Fawn. He would tell her she was getting nothing and everything was his. Fortunately, Fawn obtained the services of a good lawyer and after many years of litigation finally obtained a small settlement of around 15% of David's substantial assets. She would have been entitled to much more, but she took the 15% just to end the matter. Last thing we heard, David now has 2 Thai girlfriends who don't know about each other, and he still refuses to return Fawn's cat and parrot. And into the third of this guy's stories. This is called Noi's story. Noi worked in a bar in Pattaya, something she didn't hide from us or anyone else. She met an Australian called Simon who was about 20 years older than her. They fell in love after a short romance and Simon brought Noi back to Australia. Simon was not rich. He didn't have a house and very few assets. He was a low paid worker and lived in a rented house in a small rural town. Noi loved Simon in spite of all this and was a very good wife to him. Noi soon realised that she had to work and work hard to support herself and Simon. She was fortunate in that she obtained a cleaning job for a large mining company and she ended up making more money than Simon, and so the roles were reversed and she was the main breadwinner. Simon was extremely jealous of the attention Noi would receive when they went out, but Noi was a good wife and never strayed. Simon would generally not allow Noi to attend parties arranged by other Thai girls with Australian husbands. Noi would be relegated to just being able to view the proceedings as they were uploaded to various Thai friends' Facebook pages. On one occasion, Simon agreed to let Noi come to a party my wife was holding just for the local Thai wives. Noi got a lift with another Thai lady and drove 150 kilometres to our place. I was amazed she was allowed to come as I was sure that Simon wouldn't allow it. It turned out that I was right. As 20 minutes later, Simon turned up at our door and insisted on Noi coming home with him now. I was very surprised when Noi, who up until that time was having a fabulous time, reluctantly agreed to go home with Simon. A few years ago, Simon lost his job and had health issues, so had been unable to work for a number of years. Simon is solely being supported by Social Security and his wife's income. Noi, despite being pretty, 20 years younger than Simon and a personality unlike Simon, has remained true to him and has no plans to leave. They have been married for 10 years and continue to be married to this day. Noi is not alone, as we know a number of Thai wives that work very hard and are essential to financially supporting their household. Thai women don't always have an easy life when foreign husbands take them from their homeland and family and transport them over to the other side of the world. Some foreigners can tell just as many lies and carry out as many scams and rip-offs as the most experienced and ruthless bar girl. Thai women should ask for endeavour to find out why a foreigner's first wife left them. It was probably for a good reason. Thai women give up a lot when they leave Thailand to make a new life overseas. They are removed from their family and their culture, their religion and their support networks. Anyone who understands Thai culture knows the incredible bond and sense of duty Thai girls have to their mothers. To be separated from their mothers, sometimes for 10 or 20 years, is emotionally hard for them. It is tragic if their mother dies in Thailand while the daughter is overseas, and it is an impossible burden for them to carry, and a great sense of remorse as they feel they have failed them. We need to respect and salute Thai women for loving us enough to leave their home and family to move to the other side of the world to be with us. Yeah, I mean, that's food for thought, isn't it? It's something you don't often think about. Thais do make really good wives. I know a number of guys who are married to Thai women. And of course, if you're talking about, maybe a girl who got picked up in a go-go bar or something like that, there can be exceptions. But generally speaking, I know from friends' experiences that they do make good wives. But we don't think about the other side of the coin. You know, a lot of these girls, when they go abroad, they can be abused. I mean, you go to a place like Pattaya, look at the kind of guys who come on vacation to Pattaya. Just, look at the state of some of them. Some of them are just, I don't want to be too critical, but you know where I'm getting at. And for them to kind of take a girl back to Australia or Europe, wherever, then yeah, there can be another side to the story. So 3 good stories there. Appreciate the guys sending them in. Right, let's go to our final and third story. And this is one of those stories that I really enjoy because it goes back decades and decades and decades, and hopefully you'll enjoy it as well. This is a story of 2 extremes that happened to me with 2 Thai women. Briefly about me first. 1963, I was 18 when I joined the Merchant Navy. I worked on P&O ships as a steward for nearly 5 years, sailing around the world, Hong Kong, Singapore and Japan, all of them many times. There were plenty of girls travelling and I loved it. Signing off the ship with a girl I had met on the ship in 1968, then I worked at the Curzon House Club as a trainee croupier, which I became. In 1969, I went to the Bahamas. When I arrived in the Bahamas, I thought I had died and had gone to heaven. In 1975, I had an opportunity to go and work in Las Vegas, and there I managed to work my way up to the management ladder. I was the director of casino operations in the Conrad Hotel in Istanbul in Turkey from 1992 until 1997. That was when casinos were allowed in Turkey. In early 1993, I met this really wealthy Thai husband and wife. They were staying at the hotel for about 2 weeks, and the wife used to enjoy gambling. Their names were Aaron and Ann. I was getting to know them very well. They both went to universities in the States and both spoke perfect English. At first, they invited me to dinner a few times, but when I realised that some chemistry was happening between me and Ann, whom I found attractive, Ann was older than me, I think about 5 years. She never let me know. All the time she was in Istanbul, she always had a female travelling companion. When they left to go home to Bangkok, we kept in touch. Mainly, Anne used to call me. They come back to Istanbul about 6 months afterwards, again for 2 weeks. We more or less repeated the same thing as the first visit. As I mentioned, there was chemistry going on between me and Anne, but it seemed okay for the husband. Something very similar happened to me years ago when I was a croupier in the Bahamas. They came back to Istanbul about 4 months later. This time, Aaron had to go back to Bangkok early. That left me and Anne alone, and sure enough, we did our thing. When she left, she made me promise to go to Bangkok in a few months, which I did. When I arrived in Bangkok in early 1994, they could put me up at their condo building, of which Aaron was the main architect. Anne and Aaron also constructed it. It was the highest condo building in Bangkok 1994. Such was their wealth. Nothing happened to me, and Anne our lovemaking, it just much too dangerous. Every time I went to Bangkok, one of her employees would look after me in the apartment, the same as a hotel would. Always the same person, a very young, attractive female called Joy. I often wondered if Anne wasn't setting me up to test my loyalty with her. I went to Bangkok again about 9 months later, and they came to Istanbul many more times. I wanted to go to the bar scene in Bangkok very much, but couldn't as I was their guest. Then in late 1995, I met them in Las Vegas. From there, we went to San Francisco. Anne really took a liking to me. I hate to say this, but she really took care of me. Actually, the opposite of what is normal in Thailand. Without me asking for anything, she used to surprise me. Over time, she brought me 3 expensive watches. In 1995, she brought me a new car as a birthday gift, a Turkish-built Renault. On the trip to Las Vegas, she wanted to go shopping with me. Unknown to me, she wanted to go to a store, a high-end store. Then she started buying me clothes, which I really didn't want, as I had plenty re my job. Anyway, she did, and plenty of them. I was just looking now in my closet, a couple of suits, jackets plus ties, Zenga, Leonard, Jim Thompson. I have so many of them. Another occasion, I can't remember when, I was in the UK in the winter and I needed an overcoat. She sent me 10,000 US dollars. I couldn't believe my eyes when I saw it. I showed my dad, he didn't believe it either. I bought the nicest cashmere hair overcoat I could find, as it also gets cold in Istanbul. I still have it to this day. There are many more incidents of her kindness to me. In all fairness, she was very wealthy, so good luck to her, that's what she wanted. After time, things began to go wrong between Anne and me. The end came suddenly in New Year's 1997-1998. It happened in Istanbul. We planned to go out for dinner. Anne was in a very bad mood. She didn't want to talk to me, let alone for dinner. Now everything starts to change this trip. Joy was a female companion, and on that New Year's evening, Joy came into the casino. Joy had been drinking, and so had I. Also, Joy's English was not good, but with my broken Thai, we could communicate. As Anne stayed in for the night, Joy and I decided to go out. A few more drinks between us, then it happened. We were kissing, and it slowly got worse. So I invited her back to my room in the same hotel as Anne and Aaron. We did our thing and both passed out. The next morning, all hell broke loose. Anne and Aaron were looking for Joy. Joy didn't know what to do. To cut a long story short, Anne found that Joy had been with me all night. I think Joy's conscience told everything. They went back to Thailand the next morning with Joy with them. Joy was fired immediately. Now I didn't know what I should do. I felt horrible because Joy being out of work in Thailand is not the greatest thing in the world. Joy was 23 years old. I was 53 years old. I had a problem. In a few months, the casinos in Turkey were going to close. Turkish government ruling. I was going to be transferred to a casino in Cairo, Egypt. Hearing bad things about Cairo, just the opposite of Thailand, they have moral police who don't like single men like me, so I was looking for a girlfriend. I thought of Joy. She said yes, so I'm going to Bangkok again. When Joy and I got back to Istanbul, Joy still had a Turkish visa and I still had a work permit. We decided to get married in Ankara in the Thai embassy. We didn't love each other, but we wanted visas, so we needed each other. It was snowing. Poor Joy. It was the first time she had seen it. Plus, she wasn't dressed either. 1998, at a later date, I met Joy's poor family in a village. A big contrast from the condo. We took a lot of beer and alcohol. I stayed with Joy's family for 2 days. I always remember this occasion as we had a barbecue. I ate something which didn't agree with me. If anybody remembers the scene from Dumb and Dumber in the toilet bathroom, that was me for 2 days, and of course there were no soundproofing, just a small Asian toilet, no toilet paper and just a bucket of water. What an extreme for me. From the luxury of a condo, later when I was in Bangkok I stayed at the Hilton, then we left for Cairo. There are very few Thais in Cairo. It was hard for Joy to adjust. We used to argue a lot. It was my fault because I didn't realise the problem. We lived in Cairo for 18 months and slowly we got to learn to love each other. Then I had an opportunity to go and work in Paris, Las Vegas. This would be good for both of us. This was in 1999. I wanted to get my naturalisation and Joy could eventually get a green card, which we both did. In Las Vegas there were many Thai people, so Joy was happy there. We are now very much in love. We've had a daughter in the year 2000. In 2002, I was made redundant and now I have a new job in the Seychelles. The Seychelles, to our surprise, had a lot of Thai and Filipino women. They worked at a tuna factory and are basically slave labour. It's horrible. Joy had a lot of them as friends. The tuna factory women use an agency in Thailand which takes all of their money. The Plantation Club Hotel in the Seychelles was where I managed the casino. So how about the 2004 tsunami? About midday, I'd just woken up sitting on the veranda at our beach house drinking coffee when Joy's phone was ringing. It was Joy's family telling her something about a volcano. I turned on the TV and learned it was an undersea volcano, not thinking it would affect us, but all of a sudden the sea was going out, something that had never happened before. Then it came back. Then I realised, yes, this was a tsunami. Immediately drove my Jeep so it was facing the correct way just in case it got worse. Now the sea began to go out for the second time. The locals were by the beach. They had never seen coral this way before. Now the sea came back in slowly, creeping up the sea wall. We got into the Jeep and drove up the hill. Joy, my daughter, and I watched the sea totally engulf our house. If it had happened in the middle of the night, plus also the roads being flooded, I don't know what to think about it. I would have been working and Joy and my daughter would have been asleep, locked up in the house. It was about 3 months before we moved back into the house. The Thai ladies from the tuna factory all helped and came around. The 2005 cervical cancer. Joy wasn't feeling good so she went to Bangkok for a checkup, and sure enough, that's what they found. Cervical cancer. She had everything removed. It was very hard but necessary. She had their operation at Sukhumvit Hospital. She stayed in Bangkok for about 2 months. Over a period of time, I had 3 checkups at the same hospital. They're excellent. The very good news is to this day, she has never had repeat cancer again. The bad news being, after about a year from the operation, she told me that she didn't like aerobics anymore. I at first wasn't sure why this was, because of the operation, or was it because she didn't fancy me anymore? I soon found out it was the operation. Some women it affects this way. It affected me badly, as I think most men would be. I was very addictive. In 2005, the hotel owner died. The hotel went to pieces. His son tried to run it, but it was hopeless. In 2008, the hotel closed. Joy and I had fallen apart. As I said, the aerobics had gone. She went to the States with our daughter in 2008. I stayed looking for a job there until 2009. As you remember, everything was in a recession, a bad time to be out of work, plus my age was not helping. In 2010, we decided to get a divorce. Joy luckily got a good job at a hospital, which was very hard to do given the recession. We were living separately until 2015, when we decided to live together as friends. Also, it was good for my daughter. Joy has been back to her family in Thailand 3 times, the last being just before the pandemic. I am very lucky because after all these years we are still together. I'm 78 years old and I had a stroke 18 months ago and lost the use of my right arm. My Thai ex-wife Joy is still living with me, helping me through life. God bless her. So yeah, another one of those stories where Thai women are just doing such a great job, looking after the guy. They're falling out and decided to move in again as friends, and it seems to all be working out now, even though he is 78. Okay, so a little bit of a sad note to finish on there. That's it for this week as usual, guys. I'll be back next Saturday with more stories. I hope you can join me. Until then, thanks for listening.